item is approval of the agenda. The January 14, 2019 regular meeting agenda be adopted and presented. So moved by Councillor Smith, second by the other Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The adoption of the minutes for the regular meeting from council held December the 10th to be adopted. Any errors or omissions? Maybe I should have a mover and second first. Thank you, Councillor Erickson. Councillor Stewart. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item is the record of public hearing. With the record of a public hearing held December the 10th be received. Motion required. Proceed. Councillor Medlock and Councillor Tron. Thank you. Yes, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next thing, staff reports. Over to you, Mr. Fortolowski, please.
Your Worship, Council, good evening. Yes, this policy was drafted by staff to enable non-union staff, non-hourly dependent staff to be compensated for time dedicated to emergency work. BC Emergency Services does provide for cost recovery for such work, and right now the only personnel that can recover that, recover some money for that are folks that fill out time cards. Right now we have management staff and one or two excluded employees who work on salary basis and don't fill out time cards. Therefore, this policy, it's seen, will allow for some compensation for them, for example, during floods, fires if there were any, etc., to recover some compensation for their efforts. And in Hope's case, what this usually means is floods. We stand up the Emergency Operations Center with management personnel largely, and we do all the planning, we do all the operations work, and then Kevin and the operations department and his folks do the work on the ground, and the fire department gets involved. Well, those folks get compensated, but the people here in the EOC that are on salary don't. So as a measure of fairness, and only where compensation can be had from the provincial government, would this policy kick in.
Thank you, Mr. Fortolowski. Any questions of staff at this time? Councilor Medlock?
Yeah, my question is, you specifically named Emergency Management BC for when the district receives compensation from Emergency Management BC for emergency works. Is there any other agencies that might compensate the district that should be named in the policy? Because you're limiting to just that one funding source.
Mr. Mayor, that's indeed the case, because we're not aware of any other organization or level of government that would compensate. Legislation provides for the lead to be the government of British Columbia. Even if it were a federal emergency, everything would flow through the provincial government through to us as a creature of the provincial government.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. So the motion would be that the externally funded emergencies and disaster policy be adopted this 14th day of January 2019. So moved by Councillor Smith, second by Councillor Stewart. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Fortolowski, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Dickin will be explaining this report shortly, but you may recall that in the recent budget amendment, the plan was for a $6 million ask for Othello Road. We've done some more research into that, and we're proposing a slight change in tact to get some work done, which involves a level of reduced ambition. So I'd like to pass this on to my colleague, Mr. Dickin.
Your Worship, Council, as Mr. Fortolowski indicated, we previously applied to the UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund to upgrade the whole road, and that was just approximately $6 million worth of work. Now this fund that we have available to us now is the ICIP. There's two streams. The original recreation stream, we're applying for the Richmond Hill project. That's 6% funded by local government. This one is it's the same overall grant, but it's a different stream. It's the rural and northern communities. Our consultant, True Engineering, who's preparing the grant application, has had extensive conversations with the province about the eligibility of the Othello Road project. We did confirm that it was eligible. However, they did say that the original ask that we were looking for in the SPF fund would be not advisable, as it would represent a high percentage of the overall funds available through that granting program. So we've decided to reduce our ambition, focus on the site that's currently reduced to one lane with the use of portable traffic lights, and apply for that scope. Now that scope is just north of $2 million. This stream of the fund, it's a 10% local government contribution, so that's good news. So our portion of the grant would be $216,000 should we be successful in obtaining the grant funding. Now the grant fund, the deadline is January 23rd. We're just about completed the application. We do need the resolution tonight from council. Should council wish to grant a resolution. And the granting authority indicates that they would be making announcements in the fall. So we do have a bit of a wait on this one, unfortunately, as we would not be finding out whether we were successful until the fall. However, we have been busy working away on the design. We were able to obtain some road dedication from a neighboring property to eliminate a pinch point that we had, which does allow us to shift the road further to the south at that location, which is a really good thing. So we are continuing to refine the design, and we're hopeful through this program that we are able to achieve some higher level government assistance with this road.
All three. Sorry, go ahead, Councilor.
I have two questions. According to when I read this, I thought we only have one ask per application. One ask, and you said there's two, Richmond Hill and this?
Yeah, it's the same overall granting program.
Yeah.
Two funding streams though.
Oh, so you can apply.
So
for
you can apply for
either stream.
one or both of the streams.
Okay. So this $2 million, does it only take and consider that portion of road where it's single lane, or does it pave the whole stretch to the top of the hill?
No, the whole stretch of the road. There's actually 3 sites that need a little bit more than just
Does it say?
repaving. This is site 1. The 3 sites, including the entire repaving of the road,
That's
was the
$2
$6 million figure that we previously applied.
So this only goes where that one lane is right now, this $2 million.
Yes,
$2 million to do that one little section,
yes.
which we estimated a couple of years ago was $300,000 or $400,000. So how does the $2 million come in to do that project?
Well, it's expanded beyond that original scope. So it is a longer section, and it's realigning the road to move it over. The original scope for that repair was to put spiles in just to shore up the one curve that's there that's actually slipping. But this is actually, there are other areas just beyond there that are actually showing fatigue cracking. So the long-term solution really is to shift the road over and reduce the amount of the road that's actually on fill. So it's a more permanent solution. The other one was just essentially a spot repair.
So we're not doing anything from Nestle's up to the top of the hill, which really needs some.
The whole road needs attention, but we need to, if we want to be successful with this grant, we need to reduce the levels.
I'm just trying to figure out how much, $2 million is quite a bit of money to do that short little section. I read that every summer on my bike, so I kind of know the road.
I think we also want to guard against funding shortfalls. We did experience one with the PCC project. Certainly there is no shortage of work to do there. So, if we were able to, once we went to tender, the tenders came in significantly lower, we would have the option of adjusting the scope and carrying on, potentially upgrading some other areas that need it along that road.
So the budget amendment that was already approved for the $6 million project is obviously satisfactory. Nothing needs to be adjusted for this grant application to show that we have it in the current budget.
Yeah, so in our 5-year financial plan, that was passed in the fall,
Yeah.
we have 600,000 in there for Othello Road.
Okay, so that's
So our intent is to use 216,000 of that to support this grant application. And then, you know, there will be some engineering fees as we refine the design, but it's not going to amount to significant amount of money.
And some of those fees are not included in the grant, I suppose. There was that eligible and then ineligible costs. I think it covered a lot,
We will attempt to cover
as much
as much of the engineering as we can within the grant, yes.
So then, in your report to council under budget implication, they've got 50% government Canada, 40 the province, so total senior contribution 90. But on page 21 of our package is the actual application, all the criteria, I guess, the booklet. And they show 40% from government Canada and 33 and a third from the province, so a total senior contribution of 73.3.
That's for the community recreation
Okay,
stream.
I didn't see a matrix like that at all for the other streams. I was just making sure that we are certainly
Yeah.
getting 90 cents covered per
So,
dollar.
Yeah, we're 26.5% for the
Applying for
whole
20
project,
cents covered. Okay,
10%
that's
on this one.
excellent news. Not like 73.3 wouldn't be bad, but 90 is better. That's all my questions.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, just one question. Now, because of the fall announcement, if there's any other grant funding sources that are coming out, do we shoot ourselves in the foot by applying for this, or, like, I don't understand it, the grants won't, we can apply for another grant that may or may not come up?
Not necessarily, because we're able to staff under this program.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so if another grant did come up, we would have to obviously amend our application
fair
to
enough.
say that, yes, we've applied for additional funding. Whether that would hurt our application or not, I don't know, but that's certainly something that is done.
No, that answers my question, thank you.
All right, any other questions, councillors? All right, thank you. So it'll read that council support the District of Hope application to the Canada-British Columbia Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Rural and Northern Community Stream for the Othello Road Upgrade Project Site A, and that council commit the District of Hope to contribute its share of the eligible and ineligible costs and overages of the project to be funded from the 2019-2023 5-year capital plan. Moved by Councillor Erickson, seconded by Councillor Tron. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. No committee reports tonight. We'll move on to mayor and council reports, and we'll start at the other end tonight with Councillor Tron.
Okay. Thanks. I know it's kind of dating back a bit, but on Wednesday, December the 12th, I accompanied Councillor Victor Smith to the Hope and Yale Libraries to assist with the annual chocolate Christmas deliveries. I was treated to a tour of both facilities, and I was pleasantly impressed and surprised with all that's available to the community members. I was also quite embarrassed when they informed, well, both of us, and the last time we were members of the National Library, the last time I took a book out. So we were under their supervision. We got issued our own library cards, and yeah, it was 2 successful trips. And the same night, I attended the Chamber of Commerce annual general meeting. To start the meeting off, they went over the current financial numbers, the balance sheet. They appointed new directors, which currently 6 directors serve on the board. The Chamber is at the moment in kind of a recovery mode, and it's looking to build its member base, as well as looking for existing members to take a bigger role on the board as well. Yeah, that's it. I hope everybody had a good holiday.
Thank you, Councillor Tron. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Just to let you know, there's a Golden Agers meeting tomorrow at 1 p.m. And I won't be attending as I'm going to LGLA, but if anyone else is interested, it's tomorrow at 1. And also, I've been invited to sit on the Mental Health Committee starting on February the 6th, where I will participate in looking at the needs for mental health services in our community, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Councillor Smith.
Hello. So, yeah, the library was interesting, the fact that we both hadn't been members, not bad. I've used my card 3 times since then. He's been out of the country, he hasn't had a chance. Actually, just so people do know, if you have groceries and buy a little slip and you turn them in at the front desk at the library, they give funding towards books and that towards kids, which is an excellent project, just so you know that. For the local business supporting. Rona, actually, we were looking for recycling for some of the paints and that we have for Communities in Bloom. And Rona does do recycling on paints and that. I just was already confirmed because the other guy was there said they didn't, but today I was down there. They do. So the water-based paint, what they do is they send them out and the colors get mixed, they come back and it's a solid color, but you can't get it changed. The oil-based paint, they send it out to another place to reuse. They won't take, if the paint can is empty, they won't recycle it. But if they do, you know, because otherwise people start pouring the paint and that down the drains and that, and then Kevin will be phoning you. Just a bit on that. Also attended the fundraiser for Linda K. Peters for the crew that's going to Paris for the fashion show. It's really neat that some local people are going. I think that's tremendous. It was well attended at the Chalice. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Menlo, please.
Yeah, I've got a few things to report on here. I guess I'll be going to the LGLA sessions coming up here tomorrow through Thursday, which is good. Should be a good team building experience for all of us, as well as some learning opportunities, as always. As far as Advantage Hope goes, a week ago today, they held their strategic planning session for 2019, and basically recapped everything that had happened in 2018 that was on the work plan, and kind of forget how ambitious a work plan it is, and it's been a lot to accomplish, but they've done a good portion of it, and a lot of it is carrying over into 2019. The two biggest things, I guess, that were underway and are still ongoing is the Rural Dividend Fund, the RDF. That was a 2-year project that incorporated a whole pile of partners, trail building and signage, and just a lot of areas to that. So that is due at the end of March. The deliverables will almost be completed by March 31st. And a part of that as well, and coming out of the work plan from 2018, was the MRDT, like the hotel tax, which I think we reported on already. But that is still moving forward. The TAC committee has been formed, which is made up of tourism accommodators and just people in the tourism industry from within the region. So they're having their first meeting tomorrow, which they will finalize their application and send that off to the province, which is a great next step. So in, I guess, not so good news, but it is what it is. Patrick Earl, the executive director, has tendered his resignation. So the board is already taking action to find a replacement, and they and I have complete confidence that operations will resume as normal with the measures that they have already put in place. They're continuing to complete the deliverables for the RDF grant and the MRDT. So we wish Patrick well in his future endeavors, and I think his last day will be 2nd week of February. And then I'd like to bring up a couple of things that are more or less Advantage Hope related. So one of the important parts about the MRDT is I think everybody hopefully understands how it works, but basically the tourism or the hotel and hotels in town will collect, if it all gets approved and passed, will collect a 2% tax from visitors. And those funds go through remittance to the province, and then they come back to Advantage Hope to be used specifically for tourism marketing. So the process after the application is in, it's a 6 to 9 month time frame between until the province approves of that, and then funds wouldn't start rolling in until probably the 2nd quarter of 2020. So in the meantime, then it's estimated to bring in roughly $80,000 a year, so to be used for tourism marketing. So one of the main things that Advantage Hope and this work plan and the 5-year strategic plan is to hire a tourism coordinator to carry out the work of that 5-year tourism plan. But of course, the MRDT funding will not start rolling in until later on in 2020. So I was hoping that we could make a motion, or I'm going to make a motion, to front load some funds to Advantage Hope to hire that tourism coordinator position sometime in the third quarter of this year, so that that person can work at a part-time capacity until the MRDT is approved and start collecting. It's important to keep really good relationships with those hotel accommodators and tourism operators. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that 5-year tourism plan. So to hire somebody once the funds start rolling in, you're losing a lot of time there. So my motion is that the District of Hope commit $40,000 in the 2019 budget to hire, to allow Advantage Hope to hire a tourism coordinator in the third quarter of 2019 in advance of receiving any funds from the MRDT, and that this is a special one-time funding. So that's my motion. I'm hoping somebody will second that.
I'll second it, but with an amendment to it that if the MRDT isn't approved, that this position still gets worked, the person still gets hired on and works towards doing tourism within the region for us. Like, so if for some reason the MRDT doesn't get approved, we're not just spending $40,000 on that position and then all of a sudden we don't get it, that position's lost. Let's have them work towards something in the tourism spec for us and for Advantage Hope if that circumstances are met for the MRDT, which I assume, I'm not gonna know what it will be, but just for the worst case scenario that, so I don't know how it could read that way, so.
I see what you're saying. So my thought with the 40,000 was to start funding this year, I should have mentioned this too, as well as partly into 2020. So I think what you're saying is that if the MRDT is found out to be unsuccessful, that person would have already been hired by that point. So then just carry on until those funds are used.
Yeah, use them up until the end basically. If we're gonna fund it, let's keep them working towards the tourism aspect for us. They might be able to give us some ideas throughout it too.
So I guess initially it would have to be drafted as a contract position or something, and the manager would have to manage that.
Councillor Erickson.
So I got several questions on this. I think we should be voting on this today. There's too many questions that I have. Number one is, where does Advantage Hope get the authority to use the MRDT to start with? Because that should actually come to the district. Just because Advantage Hope is existing today doesn't mean it's going to exist tomorrow. Number one question. And number two is, we are already paying Advantage Hope $250,000 a year for tourism and economic development. Why do we have to give them another $40,000 for another position? I think they're getting plenty enough money to fund this program without putting another $40,000 of our money, taxpayer money, into Advantage Hope. Plus, I got many other questions, but those are the two main ones that I'll oppose this motion. Presently.
You want to respond to?
Yeah, I mean, so the authority that Advantage Hope has, I guess, is that they're the ones that have made the application on behalf of the district, being our tourism contractor. So I'm not even 100% sure if the funds just come to the district and then back to the contractor. Yeah. So this TAC committee, the Tourism Advisory Committee, is an extra level of oversight made up of, I think it's 11 people that give some strategic direction to Advantage Hope's board to follow through with this plan, and then Advantage Hope would hire the staffing and carry out the actual marketing efforts. So that authority is just in the way we've set up this organization, so that's where that is.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, we have to have,
The MRDT has to pay to Advantage
well,
Hope.
you have to have a destination marketing
No,
organization.
Destination marketing organization is a,
Well, it can be District of Hope.
no.
It's like, that's why you've got groups like Tourism Chilliwack and those are the destination marketing organizations that are tasked
Okay,
with
so
carrying out the MRDT.
I got another question then. So, if Advantage Hope isn't successful in 2 years to take on this tourism, then who does it? Where does this money go? The MRDT. It's got to come to the District of Hope somehow. If Advantage Hope doesn't get the
You're
successful
saying if
bid,
Advantage Hope fails to exist, what happens to
no,
the
if Advantage Hope
MRDT?
doesn't get the successful bid to do tourism and economic development in 2 years, because we have a 3-year contract, I think it's a year and a half then where does this money go? If it was supposed to go to Advantage Hope? Still gonna go to Advantage Hope when they're not doing tourism and economic
It
development?
goes to the district.
It flows through the district.
Flows through the district. So the next organization, the district would funnel
We have
through
to-
that
You
organization.
have to, through us.
So
So this money goes to the District of Hope, so the District of Hope has control of the money?
Yes,
where it goes.
yes.
Okay, so the District of Hope is, have we voted that it goes automatically to tourism, to economic development? To
Well,
Advantage Hope?
it has
Have we
to-
voted for that?
the money has to go towards tourism marketing, that's
Mhm.
specifically what it is to be
Yeah.
used for, it's not our decision, that's just the way that the tax works.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, so just because we're doing this now, doesn't mean that it should go to Advantage Hope. It could go to another tourism marketing, if there was some other tourism marketing.
If there was another tourism marketing organization that was taking care of the destination marketing, I suppose.
Okay, so, and then the advisory committee that you were talking about, how many actual Hope people are on that advisory committee? Actual people live in Hope?
Just you can bring it up, there's
Just
several,
give me a second here.
mainly made up of hoteliers and hotelers. So the destination marketing area is Hope, Cascades, and Canyon. So that includes Hope, Fraser Valley Regional District areas B, A, D,
C.
and C.
Oh, is that kind of Poplar?
D is Poplar Bridal Falls, B,
But Hope is the major one.
although is
There's-
the driving
There's
force
no,
behind, yes.
And then
hotel,
Park.
but there's
Oh, and
no,
Manning Park, yeah.
yeah, but there's no hotels in Popcom.
It includes other, I mean, it's not
There's
just
trailer parks.
specifically to market hotels, it's to market all of
No,
the
but the
tourism.
taxation is
amenities.
coming from hotels. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So what I'm saying, the majority is from Hope.
I think, Camperland in Bridal Falls.
And there's a motel there too.
Yeah.
There's a motel there,
Yes,
but
some funds come
one
from there.
small motel.
But
As well as-
we are the only ones that aren't getting the tax. Like, all those lights in Harrison, that came from the tax. You know, because the board and that, but it doesn't go through the town, because way back in 2002, the chamber tried to get this, and we couldn't, because we couldn't get the vote. And then finally, Advantage Hope did get the changeover, and he's got it, so we've missed out on a lot of years of not getting this money. And it's done by a group, you know, that are in the tourism business, and everybody brings a bit to the board, and the money's that. So it goes through a nonprofit, but they direct the money, that board,
Yeah.
and the town has control of the money to make sure it's secure.
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, I see that, but it looks like, to me, as I mean, this just came on yesterday or the day before on our email, so I've been trying to think through this.
Oh, yeah, no,
And I think we shouldn't be pushing this through tonight. It maybe should come during the budget period time when we're thinking through it, so we have more time as council to really hash this thing through. Because we could be setting up something here that we may not want down the road unless we spend some time thinking through it. So how many from District of Hope?
Well, this,
I'm trying to find it here.
the specific motion is, looking for a one-time ask, it wouldn't be an ongoing funding source. The idea is to front load the wage requirement to get this person hired, and then their wages would be paid out of the money that comes in from the MRDT in the future, right? And their job is tasked with, of getting the 5-year tourism plan in action for the entire Hope, Cascades, and Canyons area. So all of those hotel accommodators that are paying into it are helping to fund that position in the end, right? It's not just the district.
I'm trying to find it here.
You had another question I hadn't answered for, but I don't remember your question. Let's see if I can find your answer to that.
So where are we at? Councilor Erickson, did you get your questions answered?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, it just seemed like when I looked over the list, we had the list distributed to us. When I looked over the list, it seemed like there was a majority from the surrounding area and just 3 or 4 from the District of Hope. And since the District of Hope is the main funder of it, I mean, the taxpayers, people coming in through the motels is the main funder of it, I just think we should have maybe more people, majority of the District of Hope people maybe on that committee, if there is gonna be this committee, than just, you know, I know there's some from Yale and some.
Well, the TAC committee should represent the entire tourism
Yeah.
marketing region, which is the area A's, B, D, District of Hope.
But Scott, what I'm saying is the majority of the tax money that's coming back is pulled from Hope.
And then, yeah, I see
So
what you're saying.
therefore, the majority of people that are on that committee, I think, should be from Hope. Because we're the ones
Okay,
that
I think
are
I got-
collecting the money.
I think I have the list
I
here.
think you'll find that the most outlying areas have one representative, and there is more in Hope.
Yeah, so there's somebody from Holiday Trails Resort,
Mhm.
I don't know.
somebody from City Center Motel,
Yeah, there's one Karen.
Blue Lake Resort, Manning Park, and Hope Mountain Center for outdoor
That's two
learning.
from Hope.
Fraser River Raft,
That's Yale.
Yale Historic Site,
That's two from Yale.
Open Districts Arts Council, Stolo Tourism,
And there's three from Yale.
Communities in Bloom,
And there's Simon from Colonial.
this one is Mountain View Brewing, Mountain View Brewery. And I think that's all. And then there'll be one representative from the Board of Advantage Hope on there as well.
5 out of the 10.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know, I think this is too important for us just to make a quick motion and go forward with this. $40,000 is a lot into our budget.
6 out of 11, yeah.
That's up.
Can I make one suggestion? I think more information needs to be provided for Councilor Erickson, maybe some other councilors too. Maybe that we have this go to a COW, the committee of the whole, to bring some light in for more information for some of the councilors that are maybe new to this a little bit. I mean, I'm on board for it because I've sat in on the meetings, I understand what's going on, as well as Councilor Medlock, so I think maybe a COW meeting for this, just to get a little bit more information and insight to the rest of the council. And then we can bring that COW meeting into the next council meeting and then vote on it there for this motion that Scott's bringing forward.
I guess just to emphasize why this is a really good thing and want to move forward with it is that, you're right, Councilor Erickson, the district does fund Advantage Hope to the tune of $250,000 a year. 100 of that is the visitor center operations and 150 is economic development. So the visitor center operations has nothing to do with marketing of the area, it's simply operation of the visitor center. So that leaves 150 to do both the tourism, marketing, and economic development. If we can establish the MRDT tax and collect those funds to fund the tourism marketing portion, that leaves a lot more funds available to do the economic development that you're so eager in accomplishing as am I. So that's where this can offset those costs and maybe overall reduce them, because as you start to collect that tax and market the area, that will result in more stays, which increases the funds to be able to use to market even greater, which increases the stays, and that's what's been seen in other communities where this tax is collected. So that's why we need to take the first step, be leaders, and show that we want this to be here, have that position in place, a personal work to get this 5-year plan taken care of, grow those funds, and overall reduce the cost of the district. That's what we need to do. We've been using a very small budget to do the marketing that we've been doing now. And we've lost out on, well, like Councilor Smith has said there, if we've been able to accomplish this, say 10 years ago, that's probably $1 million that we've lost out in lost revenue. That's a lot of money. So I'm looking forward to being able to bring in over $1 million in the next 10 years.
The intent obviously, or as well as, pardon me, was to pivot Advantage Hope a little bit away from the tourism side of things once this gets up and running. Is there an opportunity, Councilor Medlock, to there be some possible savings in salary, a gap there from hiring an
Perhaps this
individual?
is, yeah.
That it could be, that amount could be reduced from 40 to, I don't know, half that amount? What's the timing
Well,
like for
Are you talking for the tourism coordinator position?
that and the replacement?
Yeah, I guess it's an opportunity now that you have to replace the executive director to change that job scope. The discussion hasn't happened that I've been involved in at least. They're meeting, the board is meeting, I think it's Wednesday, to have further discussion on moving forward, so I'll certainly send them that note and they can discuss that. Yeah, that's a good thought.
Can I just have one more question?
Sure, Councilor.
Heather was ahead, I'm sorry.
If you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely.
I just have a question, Scott, for Council Medlock. Is this time sensitive? Is it able to be held till after the strategic plan? so that we, have a better look at some of the big needs of this community. $40,000 for me is a big chunk, perhaps towards public safety. So, would we be able to
I understand.
postpone, or?
I don't want to say it's an urgent matter, but just like the district is taking care of budget, so we need to include this type of thing in our budget. Advantage Hope is also forming their budget, needs to have that done pretty quick here as well. So the longer we wait on it, the longer everybody's waiting to figure out where that piece of the puzzle is going to fit in the budget. I'm starting to believe that that person does need to be hired ahead of time or not. So if Advantage Hope needs to fund that out of their current funding from the District of Hope, that just leaves that much less money to do other things. And that's why I think that this is a good way to spend some of the district's money in addition to the Advantage Hope's annual budget. So I don't know if there's, I was never told that there's a time crunch, we need to have this done now. This is just the first opportunity I've had to bring it forward with all of this happening.
Would you be amenable to postponing until, say, the first meeting in February?
I assume that would probably, I guess as long as nobody criticizes Advantage Hope for not having their budget completed.
Right, and that's not my intent, not to put anybody in.
You know what I mean? Like,
the strategic plan, though, is very important for us as council.
Yeah.
And this is our priority. And I understand that that's their priority, but this is ours. And so for me, I would not be able to support this today, because I need to know that we worked on this strategic plan and that we're all living in that same boat. So today, I wouldn't be able to support it. However, the first meeting in February could be very different. And that's just where I'm at today.
I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's important to me that our plan is in place as well. This is my priority.
Okay, I see where you're coming from, and I think I'm on your side there. We can make a motion to table this, but I just want to be clear. So out of a strategic planning session that the council has, we could talk about change of how we do services or things like that. I get that, but as far as the MRDT goes, there's been far too much work gone into this, and I can't see why we would ever want to pull back from that. So no matter what happens, there needs to be somebody that carries on the work that the MRDT is designed to accomplish. So, but I see what you're saying. Whoever is the deliverer, or the parent organization that delivers that task it shouldn't matter. At the end of the day, this person that's a tourism coordinator still will need to be hired. But with that said, I think if everybody needs more time to think about it, that's probably the best thing to do. So maybe we'll make a motion to table till the next council meeting then. You want to speak? Go ahead.
Oh, so, and I know Scott's will get up and go on this because it's been like 14 years to get to this level, so, but the fact is that not everybody at the table here has the information too, and I think that's actually all everybody's after, just to find out how we got there, because like I say, it's been 14 years to get to this stage. Okay.
So Councillor Medlock, if you table this, okay. Councillor.
I guess what's bothered me about this is just dropped on us a couple days ago, Scott, and it's not negative, it's something that just came.
The idea of this
So,
extra
yeah,
funding has dropped down, yes.
That's right. So that's why I'm a little concerned about it. Another thing with Advantage Hope, I really think that before we go much farther, I think we should have an in-camera meeting with Advantage and discuss Advantage Hope and us funding Advantage Hope before the next budget.
They're under contract until the end of this year.
But we can pull the contract if we needed to. I think we should discuss it as an in-camera. We can't discuss it here, because it has to do with personnel and stuff, but I think we should have an in-camera, just discuss what we see going forward with Advantage Hope, because from what I've been hearing, they've had several meetings, or quite a few meetings, they haven't had enough people present even to have a quorum to have the meeting, so they've had, and now that the economic development man is leaving, I think we should really look this thing through, maybe just take another quick look at it in camera. That's my position.
All right, any more discussion on this? So at this point, we do have a motion on the floor, and we have a seconder. Are you wanting to withdraw?
Well, how do I officially table that so that
You
we
would have to
can?
defeat the motion if you don't want it.
You can just-
I would withdraw your motion,
Yeah, and then
Just-
just bring
just
it up
withdraw
again
the
at
motion.
another meeting?
even though it's been seconded, and we'll, second it, and we'll, you can
Do
reintroduce
we,
it.
could I withdraw that, make another motion, that we bring this up at the next council meeting as an in-camera, or sorry, a cow meeting before the next meeting? Is that more appropriate for more discussion?
Can we do it on the 28th?
Oh,
So
Yes.
That's before.
So you can
scheduled.
withdraw this
Still
motion.
before.
That's before the
You can withdraw this motion
No,
and
I
council
guess
to pass a resolution to hold or discuss this in Cal at the next regular council meeting.
I guess we could, well,
Yep.
does that fill your needs there?
It's still
Ray? You
before
wanna
the
have it?
strategic plan.
And I suggest withdraw because you may change your motion and it's just easier.
Okay, okay, I'll withdraw the motion. Second round to withdraw as well, okay.
All right.
I have one other thing, I'm not done.
No, that's good. You go ahead, you're on the roll.
So
Okay.
discussion.
Another motion, bring up some rationale here first. Well, actually, I'll make the motion first, then we can discuss it. So, another motion would be that the district staff investigate the options for proper storage of the museum collection and include the visitor center manager in the process for information and clarification regarding the collection. And that cost estimates for repair work to the existing visitor center be sought with a report to council for budget consideration. And that the reports be delivered to council by the end of February for consideration at the first council meeting in March. I'll make that motion, if anyone wants to second it, then I can speak to it.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Smith.
Okay, so I guess the rationale for this is that our visitor center manager, Sarah Brown, has serious concerns about the condition of the museum collection. It's sitting inside the A-frame building, jail cells back there. And that building has really had no heat or anything in it for quite some time now. So the collection is not something that can be easily replaced. It is the District of Hope's asset, and it is our history, which is important. So Sarah is a curator, and she'll be able to explain the specific environmental conditions that the collection will need to be properly stored. So that's why I wanted to include her in having a conversation as far as what would be required to store this stuff. And then with the station house plan in limbo, I feel like council needs options for the visitor center, and we can't make a decision on anything in my mind without knowing what we're facing at the current site. So, and I put a specific date on that motion because I think a lot of time has already passed, and in my opinion, something needs to be done to either move the visitor center to another location or look at fixing the existing one. But I don't really want to wait any longer, so that is why I've made that motion.
What's the date?
I just said to have a report to council by the end of February so that we can consider it at the first meeting in March.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
you second the motion?
Or it was
Oh, yeah,
seconded.
second.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
You want to speak to the
I'll
motion?
speak to the motion. So I like that this wants to go forward, and it's long overdue that they have a new home or a safe home. And I can support this motion moving forward. And I'd like to see the reports come back. Looking forward to getting something done here.
I think, like, my motion is sort of twofold there. I think it's rather important that we take care of our history, our collection. I don't know what the condition of it is now, but I would hate to see a major water problem in that building that ruins some artifacts that can't be replaced. And then the other thing is, working out of that trailer is not necessarily good for staff morale. It hasn't been the most ideal place to be carrying on business for as long as we have, and we've done an amazing job over there, given the circumstances. But I think some sort of, it would be a boost to the staff over there to know that there's something happening instead of just waiting, right? So that's what it's about for me mostly. So thanks for supporting it.
Councilor Trump.
So are you just like currently requesting like a secondary storage facility for the existing?
Something,
materials? Yeah.
because there's
Or
some
do you
things in
want-
there.
And then by the end of March, you're interested in having a solid decision on where the future of the visitor center, like with regards to like a different location or upgrading the current location?
I think certainly a solid decision on to where the museum artifacts could be stored, because
That does sound pretty bad.
in Sarah's opinion, where they are currently stored is not satisfactory.
They don't heat.
So that certainly by that timeframe, and then also just some sort of rough cost as to what it would cost to repair that, just something. Not necessarily what the actual decision on the final outcome of that is, but move it forward one peg.
Councillor.
So Councillor Scott, I agree with your proposal. I've agreed with it since we moved out of the tourism center. I think we should be setting an RFP out immediately to rebuild that tourism center and get it fixed up so that's usable. I don't think it would cost a lot. You've got 2 or 3 or 4 guys coming back with bids to clean up the water, figure out the water problem on the outside, which is fairly simple to me. I was over there looking at it. And the inside is just get rid of the mold and rip the chip rock off and reframe it if we have to put new flooring in. I think we should have done that, because we spent $50,000 on the existing temporary place now. We could have put that into the real place and they would have had a decent home. And I think as soon as we get that, then the museum problem will be solved, because we'd have a dry place to keep the museum in terms. I'm totally in favor of this motion. I think we should speed it up.
All right, it's time to move on this one. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Sorry, did you want to speak to that, Mr. Dickon?
It's a little too late.
It's too late, I'm sorry.
It just doesn't count.
Speed to split. You want to-
Councillor Blaylock, are you finished?
I'm done, thank you.
All right, Councillor Harrison.
So, I went to the year-end chamber meeting, and it is a problem that volunteers for the chamber, and they're going through a rebuild. I really agree. I wasn't going to take on any of the leadership, but I have agreed that I'll help them do the signage, and so I'll be helping with that. And then I had a meeting with the Tilcomb family group. They're trying to put together, we've had several meetings, so they're trying to put together some homes for their children who are, the parents are aging out, and it's just been too difficult for the parents to look after their children. They want to try and put together a facility where the parents could live in the facility and their children live in a room by themselves or a place by themselves, so they can live more independent. They would still have to have someone looking after some of them for meals or housekeeping and laundry, but they want to try and get it so that there's a coordinated effort where they can still live in the facility, so when they die, the children still have a place that they feel is home. And they've been working on that for quite a bit of time now. So I'm on the committee now that is going to look at the financing of it. Chief Ken Hansen was at our meeting, and he's put us in contact with the Bank of Montreal in Vancouver, who does funding for these kind of facilities. So we're going to be going down as soon as we can, I think near the mid-February, I think it's the earliest we can get in. We're going to be going down and looking at the possibility of getting funding with Ken Hansen. He's going to be coming with us, hopefully, and see if we can get some funding for these very important children, young people, adults. Now, another thing that's really come up over the holidays, and I've had many calls over it, and many people have talked to me, is the homeless problem that we have in the community. So I spent better of 2 days going around to businesses on Wallace Street, Hope Princeton, and 6th Avenue, and in behind where Hope Ready Mix is, and Tolling, and talking to the people regarding the problem with the homeless people. And it's been really a problem according to all of them that I talked to. The only business that didn't have any problem that hasn't accentuated over the last 3 or 4 months is Tim Hortons. All the other ones that we talked to, when I went to A&W that day, they had been broken into, and the police were there at the time when I was there, and some person came in and stepped on camera, showed he filled his coat full and his chest full of stuff off the counter, and went out. They saw his picture going out, and the manager of the A&W, for example, says nightly they've been getting their hoses slashed, and they drain the gas out of the hoses to light the fire. So I went over to CN, and I couldn't get into CN, so this morning I managed to get in. I talked to the assistant superintendent, and the superintendent called me back, and he said it's been a real uptick the last 3 months. And I said, well, I have a real concern. Has any of you gone and looked under the bridge?
Oh, yeah.
Have you gone and driven and looked under the bridge? It's a disaster under there. And so what's happening, and many of the businesses talk to me about this, is they're having their propane tank stolen, and they're taken down and they're using the heat from the propane tank to keep them warm under the bridge. Well, my concern really is if someone leaves a propane tank in the middle of the track and an engine goes by. CN guys talked to me today, I think it was Travis or Tyson. He said they have to stop on a regular basis and pick the propane tanks up and clean them up. So I think we as a district have to really be cautious of what's actually happening in the district, especially that we have this homeless shelter on the other side of town, which has spread the homelessness across town now, according to these people. Now, I'm sympathetic to these people. Don't get me wrong. I would love to see something happen that we could help these people heal and become normal citizens. But as I see this homeless shelter being put in there, and we have the people staying over there, we don't have any support services to really support them other than the homeless shelter. Mental health is not adequate in town. Even the medical health is not adequate in town to take care of these poor people. We don't have a court system in town. So we really, as a district, we really have to sit down, and I think what you said, Heather, strategic planning, we have to sit down and really look this over to see, is it the best thing to put the homeless shelter on that side of town? Should we left it in Silver Creek, or should we do something? We have to do something for these people, but what the district hasn't really made a decision. The council has not made a decision whether that's the right place for the homeless shelter. I think sometimes by putting the homeless shelter there, we're just basically enabling these people to continue their lifestyle. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, they say, well, yeah, we got a place to stay, so we can keep doing what we're doing. I think we really have to think this through and figure out what would be best for the district and stop the tremendous break in entry. And for example, CN was at Canyon Cable 3 days ago. They spent $700 and some worth of LED lighting. The next day it was all gone. The next day, they hadn't even had the lights up 24 hours and they were gone. They said it's been a big uptick. And it's behind Canyon Cable at the bottom depot. They broke in behind, broke right through the wall, got in to take the register. And so I talked to a police lady, and the RCMP lady, I said, now tell me the truth. Has it really been an uptake in the last 3 months? And she said, yes, there's been an uptake. You talk to Ray at Canyon Cable, he says, I don't even report to the police anymore because it's just senseless. We have so many break-ins and trauma at their place. So I think we have to really look at this seriously, a real serious issue that we have to look at as council to see what we can work together as a team to try and figure out what to do. And I think number one, the district should go ahead and clean up underneath that track. Get a container in there and clean that up and see if we can minimize the possibility of having a bad accident where CN runs over a propane tank, and especially one of these big oil trains. And we have 2 or 3 going through every day. So I think we should look at it seriously and look at this homeless thing very seriously in the district. Okay. Sorry I talked on, but I think it's a very serious issue that we have.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just to rest the public and yourself, Councillor Curtin, and Councillor, a little bit at rest. The fire chief and I periodically go out and we check all the homeless camps, and we work with CN, the rail companies, and the province on items just like you said, especially the danger items, propane, etc. So, in fact, we walked all the camps during the Christmas break. So, we do monitor them, probably not as much as one could, but certainly as we can to ensure safety.
But I think as far as the homeless camp under the bridge, I think it's a safety issue for our district. It's filthy, it's a mess. Yeah. And I think if we cleaned it up, I think we could hire a couple people and one day they could put it in containers and take it away.
There's some jurisdiction issues.
I talked to CN about that, he said they would love to get it cleaned up, he said they just,
Well,
because
they
there's highways involved and the CN's involved, he said their fingers are tied, but it's in our area, and, you know, it's homeless, and someone's gotta clean it up. Anyway,
Councillor Smith.
I'll keep mine short. Christmas break was good for everybody, I hope. We touched on Advantage Hope, we, sitting on as a liaison now, attended, the strategic planning, and then we're unfortunate with Patrick Earl, moving on, but the board seems to have it under control. Attending the LGLA seminars this week, I think it's gonna, in Richmond, I'm looking forward to this too. Kinda gonna be a good, some time with the new council. I don't think we've spent any time with us outside of this chamber, so I think it's good team building. And, yeah, I don't have anything else to report on.
Thank you.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. I'll try to do the same thing, but it's been a busy time, and I want to respond to a few things that Councillor Erickson said during my report. So first of all, I attended the Fraser Valley Regional District Corporate Services Committee, and we received unanimous support for our MRDT submission to the province, so that was good. Everybody's on side, they're looking forward to working with us in all the different areas. I went to the Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting, and Chair Jason Lum has assigned me to 3 additional committees. I'm now representing the community on the LMLGA Flood Control and River Management Committee, the Fraser Valley Aboriginal Relations Committee, and the Municipal Finance Authority. So those are my other jobs along with the other list he gave me, so I'm looking forward to working with that crew up there. I also attended the meeting with Councillor Bob that he spoke to about the Open Area Association for Community Living on their housing project, and Councillor Erickson gave you a good update on that. I attended a meeting with Fraser Health on an orientation about how healthy our community is and the health, what kind of state our community is in health-wise, with Catherine Weeb, Patriot Party, and Dr. Josh Gregan. It was very informative. And they have added another mental health counselor, and they have a new manager at out of the hospital there through the mental health department. They would like better communication for the future from us on future growth and population increases, to plan for more hospital beds, mental health, other counselors, the project that's proposed up by Glen Howell, I guess is that the correct term, up the street here. They want to know the numbers of potential people moving into the community so they can do a better plan for budgeting and asking for funds to expand their beds and coverage at the hospital. And I said we would try to do that on a timely basis. Exciting conversation at the Regional Corporate Services second meeting about mosquito spraying plan for the coming season. They're expecting a big year for mosquitoes, and we are part of that spray area, so look out for those little critters coming. Attended a rec commission meeting, just regular business, nothing new to report there. I had a tour of the homeless shelter, and I met the new in-house mental health individual that's there. I understand Councillor Erickson's concerns, and I have heard some as well, but there's some petty theft issues, and not necessarily related to the homeless, but there is a lot of homeless people that are maybe involved in those crimes that are not necessarily staying at that shelter. They are getting the help they need. I met several individuals there, and I strongly recommend that we go as a council and have a tour there, meet some of the individuals, meet the staff who have been very proactive in going around to the businesses and make sure that to the point where some business owners are taking a picture of the individual, sending it to the manager at the shelter and saying, is this one of your clients? And if not, maybe they get a referral to somewhere. Because we can't paint that whole organization over there with the same brush, I don't think. There's some individuals that choose not to use the facility, and there's some that need help, and they're getting it from what I can see. So I would look forward to making arranging a tour for council at your convenience to go over and inspect the facility. I was very impressed with the people that are working there. I met with MP Mark Strahl for support on our grant applications, and he's willing to, I know it's difficult when you're in the opposition, but he's there to support any of our projects that we have on the go, or bring it to our attention when there's new infrastructure funding coming out of Ottawa. And we wish Donna Bellingham well. She will not be working with us for a little bit. She's had a major accident at home and she's recuperating. And Mr. Fortolowski will keep us in touch on how she's doing.
Yes.
I appreciate that. And that's the end of my report tonight. A lot of reports and too much talking. So this time refer it back to staff, please, under the first item under permits and bylaws.
Mr. Mayor, Councilors, item 7A relates to an amendment of fees and charges, and it's really two parts. The first part is the business license amendment, and in particular, it's dealing with an indoor market. You'll recall we made arrangements to host the Hope Mountain Market, which was a new sort of thing for the district as far as regulation and enabling its success. And in this case as well, we didn't have a category in the business licensing bylaw that took into account the model for this, which is the owner of the property would invite displayers or people like some other municipalities where you've got like a big, say, an antiques bazaar, and you've got a bunch of different displays within that building, and they're individual retailers, and you go to one till basically, but it gets divvied out. So those particular displayers could change often, could be very small scale, etc. And as we don't have a particular category, but we wanted to enable this, both from a community development and economic quality of life point of view, we proposed to the landlord a fee that would be equivalent to the mountain market fee in the interim, and they're amenable to it. And that would recoup some of the costs for us, but also make it fair, so that other retailers in the district wouldn't necessarily see him getting an advantage by using that model. And also, we have struck a committee, at least from a staff point of view, to move forward to investigate how we can better do this. Some other communities have a regulation, but we don't really have anything developed, so we'll move to that. The second resolution or amendment proposed to the fees and charges relates to the disposal of animal carcasses. And I'll just come up to it here. And in particular, we're talking about dogs. The actual cost of taking away, destroying, euthanizing dogs and the disposing of them, usually via cremation, has gone up, so we need to actually cover the cost. So we're proposing that it be done via weight, which is an objective cost in which the people involved in disposal utilize. So you can see there, instead of just a one fee of $150, that the fees remain $150 for small to medium dogs for the takeaway and destroying, but for large-sized dogs, 146 pounds and up, that it go to $200 for cremation and $225 for euthanization. Not a happy topic, but we have to cover it.
Yes. Council, any questions for staff? This time? Okay. So the first resolution, the business license amendment bylaw number 1448, 2019, be read first, second, and third time this 14th day of January.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Move in second. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Second resolution, the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 1449, 2019, be read at first, second, and third time this 14th day of January 2019. Councilor Medlock, Councilor Smith, Councilor, yes.
So, looking at the fees for that, the pooches, is that normal for other communities? It seems quite a bit, $240 to.
Those are the charges related to the Director of Corporate Services to cover the cost, and she's done the research. I have not directly, and I believe in the veracity of those figures.
Very, very common. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Fortalowski, please.
Mr. Mayor, this item, which I'll pass on to Mr. Gill in a moment, deals with the potential development on 950 Othello Princeton Way involving the likelihood of a hotel and convention center. So this is a variance development permit item, and the developer is here, by the way, but I'll pass it to Mr. Gill.
Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council, this item had come before council on November 26, 2018. We went out for notification to area residents just to find out what their opinion is, and also the nearby jurisdiction, which is the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure. We did not receive anything from area residents, but the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure did provide us with correspondence, which is attached to the report.
Any questions of staff at this time, Councilor? All right, here we go. The council approved the issuance of a rail and highway service corridor form and character development permit with a variance to relax the maximum building height from 15 meters, 49.5 feet, to 18.6 meters, 61 feet, in order to construct a hotel, restaurant, and conference center on the property legally described as that part of District Lot 80, lying south of the southern limit of the Hope Princeton Highway, as shown on Plan H94, and west of the west boundary of Section 11, Township 5, Range 26, west of the 6th Meridian. Yale Division, Yale District Accept Plan 39120, PID 014-767-945, 950 Old Hope Princeton Way. And further, that for purposes of the development permit with a variance validity period, the conditions shall expire on January 14th, 2021. And further, that for purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start shall mean the completion of the foundation for the proposed structure. And further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to approve minor amendments to the rail and highway service corridor form and character development permit. And further, that the Director of Community Development be authorized to endorse the development permit, the variance and associated documents. And further, that the site preparation and tree removal area on the property be restricted to the development of a hotel, restaurant, conference center area only, and not the overall site. So moved by Councilor Smith, second by Councilor Tron. Any discussion? Councilor Ayers.
So, the last part of that motion that says the trees not be taken off the property, is that only after the building permit has been given? Or can they take the trees and just leave it?
Mr. Mayor, through you, what we're trying to do here is we're going to be establishing a amenity contribution agreement in place. So we're holding that $75,000 in installments for, I guess, up to $250,000.
$250,000, yeah.
And it's going to act like a security. If and the tree cutting, to answer directly your question, it would happen once that amenity contribution item is executed. So we got that security in place, and if something were to happen, we can use that funds to reinstate the land to its former self and best.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah. All question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Your second report, please.
Mr. Mayor, Council, this deals with the property at 62890 Flood Hope Road, Kerr Properties, and it's in relation to a flood and erosion hazard development permit, which is a fairly common thing here in the district, and I'll pass off to Mr. Gill to explain.
Mr. Mayor, through you, in September 2018, a rail and highway service corridor development permit with a height variance was approved by council for a multi-phase development in which multiple buildings will be constructed for boat and RV storage, service, and sales. The proposal is unique in the fact that customers will be able to empty and clean their units before putting them into storage, and also pull them out of storage and prepare for their travel right on site. What's occurred is typically as a part of the Silver Hope floodplain, the area falls under a surface flow. And within the regulations of the official community plan, it basically says if you can meet the 0.6 elevation above the nearest road, or the height of the overall site, whichever is greater, then you don't require a development permit. So the applicant has looked at the site in great detail, and in some areas they felt that the amount of fill that would need to be brought to meet that nearest road would be about 11 feet. They felt that, what would be the recourse on the matter, and the official committee plan reverts back that a development permit then would be required, and a site-specific report would need to be put in place. They've commissioned a drone, the report has come back, they've proven the site safe for the use intended, and therefore the applicant will also be required to safe harbors covenant, acknowledging the fact that they are building in a floodplain, and that anything that deviates from that report is going to be at their sort of peril.
Councilor Medlock.
So, thank you for that explanation. I think I understand it better than when I read it. But I do have a question that came out of my thoughts. So, if they're building at the elevation that they're going to build at, permit here, will that affect any of the other neighboring properties as far as the flow from Silver Creek, I guess it is, right?
Mr. Mayor, through you, as part of the flood erosion hazard assessment, it is the duty of the qualified professional to make sure that there's no transferable risk onto adjacent property owners. And another item that I should add, they will be bringing fill to the site to level it off. I believe that's maybe happening currently, and so just keep that in mind.
Okay, good.
All right. So I'll read the motion that a flood and erosion development permit be issued for the property legally described as Lot AD 153, Section 6, TWP 5 RTE, 26W6M YD Plan 81163 PID 026-771-284, which is also known as 62890 Floodholt Road, to enable the owner to proceed with the construction of storage buildings for boats and RVs, and further that upon receipt of an acceptable certified report from a qualified professional confirming the safe development of storage buildings for boats and RVs, authorize the Director of Community Development to endorse the development permit and required covenant documents, and further that for purposes of the development permit validity period, the conditions of the development permit shall expire on January 14th, 2021, and further that for the purposes of Section 504 of the Local Government Act, substantially start shall mean the placement of a foundation for any of the contemplated structures. Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor Erickson and Councilor Medlock. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence. Motion to receive accounts payable check listing. Councilor Smith and Councilor Smith. And motion to information correspondence received as well.
You gotta vote on the last one.
Okay, let's vote on both of them together.
Okay.
Councilor Tron, Councilor Stewart. All those in favor for both A and B? All right, opposed? Why not? Carried.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding the accounts payable checking, when is the district roofing going to be completed? The roofing procedure on the district office, is the completion on the health unit been done too? The roofing?
Mr. Dickens here to answer that directly.
Because I see you paid partial, it says partial payment for the roofing on this, on the health unit. But this doesn't look like it's done up here.
Both projects are substantially complete. Full payment hasn't been made yet.
Okay,
Final invoicing is yet to happen. Final inspection of the work is yet to happen.
because I see there's still flashing's got to be put around here.
Flashing is completed.
Let's complete it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I looked at it last, okay, good. So it's basically completed then?
Yes. That's just final inspections to do,
Okay,
and there's some interior work to do with the hatch in this building.
okay,
Now,
and
the
then,
health unit building is complete.
okay, thank you.
Okay. No other pertinent business. We're off to question period. Any questions from the public or items related to the agenda? Pretty quiet group tonight. That's always good. So our next meeting is January 28th in this district chamber at 7 p.m. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Medlock, Councilor Frye. All those in